Well, have you been looking for a chance to put on your detective hat? Well, here you go. A new portion of tricky riddles to sharpen your mind.
Yeah.
Melissa met her guests who came to her birthday party. Catherine came before Bob, Aaron after Raynon. Bob arrived before Raynon, and Timothy came after Aaron. So, which guest arrived last? Timothy was the last one to come. Now let's say you have two jugs. One of them holds exactly 3 gallons of water and the other holds 5 gallons. With the help of just these two jugs and a fire hose, how can you measure out exactly 4 gallons of water? Fill the 5-gallon jug to the top. Then pour it into the 3-gallon jug until it's full. You now have 2 gallons of water remaining in the 5-gallon jug. Pour out the water from the 3-gallon jug and then pour the 2 gallons from the 5-gallon jug into the 3-gallon one. Finally, fill the 5-gallon jug to the top and pour it into the 3-gallon jug until it's full. There was only enough space left for 1 more gallon in the 3-gallon jug, so you now have exactly 4 gallons in the 5-gallon jug. Look at this image attentively and try to find a mistake. There's no river on the other side of the bridge. Where does it disappear? Now, look at these men very closely. Can you figure out which of them is a fake doctor? The doctor on the left may be wearing casual clothes, but he has his badge on, which probably means he was called to work urgently and didn't have time to change. He's also holding a stethoscope. The doctor in the middle is holding a spoon. But even though it looks suspicious, he has just given a child patient some cough syrup. You can also see a badge on his uniform. As for the man on the right, he's not a doctor. There's no badge on his uniform. And if you examine him more attentively, you'll notice the police uniform under his white coat. He's most likely a police officer undercover. Christy poured herself a full cup of tea and drank half of it. Then she filled the cup with milk. Then she drank half of the drink again. Then she refilled it with milk again and drank the rest of it. Can you figure out if Christy drank more tea or more milk? She drank the same amount of tea and milk. Look, Christy ended up drinking all her tea since the cup was eventually empty. Christy refilled the milk 2 times, and every time it was half a cup of milk, totally a full cup of milk. Deceptor, a famous magician, announced that he could throw a ping-pong ball in such a way that it would go a short distance, come to a complete stop, and go in the opposite direction. He also clarified that he wouldn't bounce the ball off of any object or tie anything to it. And indeed, he managed to perform the trick. How did he do it? He threw the ball straight up into the air. Can you name 4 days of the week that start with the letter T? These days are Tuesday, Thursday, today, and tomorrow. Now, listen up.
Yeah.
All statements are true except one. 3 days ago was not Friday. The day after tomorrow will be Saturday. Tomorrow is not Wednesday. In 5 days, it's a day off. Yesterday was not Saturday. So the question is, what day of the week is today? Wednesday, Thursday, Friday, or Saturday? It's Thursday. Let's see how we can figure it out. 3 days ago was not Friday. If this statement is true, then today is not Monday. The day after tomorrow will be Saturday. If it's true, then today is Thursday. Tomorrow is not Wednesday. Then today is not Tuesday. It's a day off in 5 days. If this statement was true, today would be Monday or Tuesday. But in this case, the statement contradicts the first and third ones. It must be false. Yesterday was not Saturday. It means that today is not Sunday. Based on all this, we can conclude that today is Thursday. There were 2 plastic jugs filled with water. Can you put all the water into one barrel without using any dividers and still tell which water comes from which jug? You can do it by freezing the water in one or both jugs and then cutting the plastic away, leaving only the ice. After that, you can put the chunks of ice into the barrel. This way, you'll be able to tell which water comes from which jug. A farmer in Florida owns a beautiful pear tree. He supplies fruit to a nearby grocery store. One day, the store owner calls the farmer to check how much fruit is available for him to buy. The farmer knows that the main trunk has 24 branches. Each branch has 12 boughs, and each bough has 6 twigs. Since each twig bears one piece of fruit, how many plums will the farmer be able to sell? Unfortunately, none. At least not from this tree. A pear tree doesn't produce plums. You have 5 jars with pills. Each pill weighs 10 grams, except for contaminated pills contained in one jar. There, each pill weighs 9 grams. You have a scale, but can you tell which jar has the contaminated pills after making just one measurement? To find the contaminated pills, you should follow the following steps. Take out 1 pill from jar number 1, 2 pills from jar number 2, 3 pills from jar number 3, 4 pills from jar number 4, and 5 pills from jar number 5. Put all these 15 pills on the scale. The correct weight should be 150 grams. But since one of the jars has contaminated pills, the weight will definitely be less than 150 grams. If the weight is 149 grams, then jar number 1 has the contaminated pills, because there is only one pill like that. If the weight is 148 grams, then the contaminated pills are in jar number 2. If the weight is 147 grams, the contaminated pills are in jar number 3, and so on. Many years ago, one guy was captured by an evil witch who kept him in her house. There was a cellar door in the house, and the witch warned the guy not to open it because he was not ready to see what was behind it. Can you guess what was on the other side of the door that the witch didn't want the guy to see? The guy was actually locked in the cellar, and on the other side of the door was the rest of the house and the outside world. The witch just didn't want the guy to escape. One day, a boss told his employees, "I can fight and beat any man who works here." A new employee, a tall ex-prize fighter, decided to challenge the boss. Interestingly, the boss won the bet, even though he didn't defeat the man. What did the boss do? Not to lose face, he fired the new employee on the spot. This way, when he defeated the boss, he wasn't working in the company anymore. Marty and Jill wanted to copy 3 60-minute tapes. They have 2 tape recorders that will dub the tapes for them, so they can do 2 at a time. It takes 30 minutes for each side to complete. Therefore, in 1 hour, 2 tapes will be completed, and in another hour, the third will be done. Jill says all 3 tapes can be finished in 90 minutes. Can you figure out how it is possible? Let's call the tapes 1, 2, and 3 with sides A and B. In the first 30 minutes, the guys will work with 1A and 2A. In the second 30 minutes, they will record 1B and 3A. Now, tape 1 is completed. Finally, in the last half hour, they will do tape 2B and 3B.
Edward and Stan are best friends. Edward lives with his wife, Leah, and Stan lives alone. Can you spot Stan's house? There's a love note on the fridge in the right kitchen. Therefore, Stan lives in the left one. Edward is furious because Leah cleaned his home office without permission. Can you spot 5 changes? Here they are. A lot of neighbors gather for Edward's garage sale. One of them is a robot. Can you guess who? This gentleman. Stan is visiting a food court and finds 2 similar bakeries. Can you spot 5 differences between them? Over here. What about these burger places? Can you find 10 differences? Here they are. Can you spot a mistake in this menu? Tuna isn't an ice cream. What about this coffee menu? Any mistakes? Free toppings have a price. Stan works in an agency that holds super secret investigations. They're looking for people with superpowers all over the planet. One day, an anonymous user broke into their corporate system where all the data was stored. Stan finds 3 suspects who are capable of such crimes and interrogates them. He asks only one question. What did you manage to find out when you stole the data? Billy says, I haven't done this kind of crime for 15 years. I don't want to go back to prison. Anna says, I was going to steal your data, but I changed my mind. You didn't have any valuable information. Nobody will believe in superheroes. And Liam replies, Bruh, if I committed such a crime, I would have covered all traces. Who's lying? Anna. She couldn't have learned the secret information without breaking into their system. Stan is visiting a fashion show. He received a clue that one of these models can be a robot. Can you guess who? The second lady. She has a USB outlet on her neck. The robot model, Nina, is very famous, and nobody knows that she's not human. Stan invites her to his office. Nina confesses, I arrived from another planet to study human behavior. Unfortunately, someone recorded their secret interrogation and posted it online. Only 4 people were in the office at that moment. Stan questions them. Ryan, the cleaner, says,
I was vacuuming the 5th floor and couldn't hear anything.
Mia, the manager, says, I'm a huge fan of Nina even though she's not a human. I would never set her up like that. And the guard, Billy, says,
I didn't hear your conversation. I was watching a football match in my headphones.
Who's lying? Ryan. Their office is a 4-story building. Nina invites Stan over for dinner. She lives in a big, circular house with a maid, a butler, and a gardener. Nina goes to her room to change. Suddenly, Stan hears her scream and runs to her. Oh no, someone broke into my safe and stole my diamond necklace. Stan interrogates the staff. The butler says he was organizing the library. The maid says that she was dusting the corners. And the gardener says she was watering the roses. Who is lying? The maid. She was dusting the corners, but Nina lives in a circular house. So there are no corners. Stan invites Nina to a fancy restaurant to refute rumors that she's a robot. Can you spot any mistakes in this menu? They confused pomegranate with meat. Stan leaves the table to wash his hands and returns in 2 minutes. Can you spot 5 changes? Here they are. Nina slips and falls on the floor. Now she needs to replace a broken fragment in her body as soon as possible. Stan takes her to a secret lab. They need to enter a 3-digit code to open the door. He starts looking for clues and notices some tips written on the wall. But the last digit is erased. Can you help them crack the password? The digits indicate the points of intersections of the lines. So the last digit is 4. They open the door and enter a spacious hallway. A note on the wall says, Lab is behind the purple door. Can you help the guys find the purple door? The first door is wooden, but it has an inscription and an arrow indicating that the purple door is on the right. The second door is painted blue and red, so it doesn't fit. Let's take a closer look at the third door. There is purple color under the layer of yellow paint, so the guys choose this door. Nina throws a party at her house and invites Stan. He receives an anonymous message. There's a werewolf among the guests. Can you find this person? The first lady is wearing very long nails, and the second guy has a heavy beard. But it doesn't prove anything. But let's take a look at the third lady. She's trying to hide her shiny yellow wolf eyes under her fancy sunglasses. In the kitchen, Stan meets 3 chefs preparing delicious meals. One of them is a criminal. Can you guess who? The third lady. She's adding glass fragments to the food. Stan calls the police and they arrest the third chef. She confesses that one of the guests, John, bribed her. He asked her to put glass in Stan's plate, but there are 3 Johns at the party. The officer asks one of them just one question. How do you know Stan? John 1 says, I'm a billionaire and I don't do interrogations without my lawyer. John 2 says, I came here to see Nina because she's my crush. I've never seen Stan before. And John 3 says, Stan and I went to the same college. I haven't seen him for many years, but today we met by chance. Who's lying? John 1. He's wearing a fake Gucci sweater. It's unlikely that he's a billionaire. The next day, Stan wakes up in a dusty basement. A creepy voice says that Stan can pass through one of these 3 doors. Behind the first door, there's a tank with crocodiles. Jungles full of wild animals are hiding behind the second door, and there's a giant blue whale behind the third door. It can easily swallow an adult human. Which door is more or less safe? Stan should pick the third door. Whales can't survive without water. Therefore, it's not a threat. Stan returns to his office and finds out that someone has stolen the most expensive superhero costume from the lab. Only 3 people knew about this artifact and had a key: Mia, Billy, and Rose. Stan questions everyone. Mia says, I was feeling sick yesterday, so I went home. Billy says, I locked the office at 10 p.m. and carried my key with me. And Rose says, I carried out technical testing of the suit in the afternoon. After that, I locked it up and left. Who stole the costumes? Mia. She's wearing a superhero costume under her clothes. Stan offers Mia a deal. If I write your exact weight on a piece of paper, you'll give the costume back. Mia agrees and gives Stan a piece of paper and a pen. In a minute, she returns the costume. How did Stan do it? Stan literally did what he said. He wrote the phrase, your exact weight, on the paper. Stan needs to find new investors for his agency. That's why he's meeting 3 people, and each offers Stan a deal. Mallory says, I used to have unique superpowers when I was little, but I didn't develop them. Now I'm old and rich, and I want to invest in your lab to help people like me. Cherry says, my parents left me billions of dollars. I want to invest in progressive projects. And Alfred says,
Look, I can help you develop your agency, but I want to have a controlling stake and hire my own staff.
One of them is a liar. Can you guess who? Take a closer look at Mallory's hand. She's a robot. Therefore, her story is a lie, because robots don't age. The owner of the restaurant, Vegan Paradise, called the police. Someone has attacked our chef. He was taken to a hospital several minutes ago. My rivals must have sent someone to ruin my business. When police officers came to the restaurant, they found out that 3 people had been in the staff area during the accident. The first cook was cutting onions when the chef was hurt. He told the police that tears had blurred his vision and he hadn't seen anything. The second cook was peeling shrimps when the accident happened. He said that he had been listening to music through his earphones, and he hadn't heard anything. The third person, a waitress, claimed she had been serving lemonade outside. Who's lying? The second cook attacked the chef. There can't be shrimps in a vegan restaurant. Eric was having lunch in a cafe. At one point, he went to the bathroom and left his smartphone on the table. When he came back, the phone was missing. Eric saw a man leaving the place and ran after him. Eric stopped him when the man was about to sit in a car and asked him to return the gadget, but the man claimed to know nothing about the phone. He said that he had just given his friends a lift to work, and he pointed at 2 men entering an office building. After hearing this, Eric immediately called the police. Why? The man lied. His car is a sports convertible with just 2 seats. It can't fit 3 men. The police got a call from the house of a wealthy man who didn't come back after going for a jog. When several officers arrived, they questioned the maid, the millionaire's wife, and his driver. The maid said, "When Mr. Jones went for a jog, he asked me to prepare his breakfast, and I immediately got down to work. But it's been 3 hours, and he hasn't returned yet." The wife was worried too. "I saw him in the morning, but he was in a hurry. We just greeted each other and I went to work." The driver told the police he'd been waiting for his boss in the car, looking through his social media. Who knows something about the millionaire's disappearance? The maid's lying. If she had cut the apples for breakfast 3 hours ago, they would have turned brown by now. Now, look at poor Dwight. Someone has pulled a paint bucket prank on him. Look at his colleagues and try to figure out who it was. It was definitely Jim. Look at his pants. There are paint stains there. Now, look at these girls. Who's going to be the first to escape? It's going to be the first girl. She's got long, beautiful nails. She's bound to have a file to look after them. It can help her cut the rope. One of these people on the train is hiding some treasure. Who can it be? It's this woman. She pretends to be pregnant, but her belly is suspiciously square. Look at these 2 girls. Who will be the first to escape? The one on the right. She hasn't touched her food because she uses her spoon to dig a tunnel. The girl on the right has managed to escape, but the tunnel splits into 2 smaller ones. One is swarming with snakes, and in the other, a fire is raging. What should she do? She should dig another tunnel above these 2. She's got her spoon after all. David was a famous antique dealer in his town, but there were loads of people who envied him. The man had a beautiful young daughter called Liza. One evening, when the antiquarian was busy in his workshop, his phone rang. A man told him that they had David's daughter. If he wanted to see her again, he had to give his jewelry collection to the man waiting at the doors. David requested to talk to his daughter. He asked her just one question. "I have 2 hands, but I can't scratch myself. What am I?" When David heard no answer, he said, "It's not my daughter," and hung up. What's the answer to this riddle? Liza would know that her father was talking about a clock. It took 9 years to build the world's tallest skyscraper. Every next year, the builders managed to double its height. How many years did it take the skyscraper to reach half of its maximum height? Eight years. If the constructors doubled the building's height every year, the skyscraper was half of its final height a year before it was completed. Divide 30 by 1/2 and add 10. What will you get? The correct answer is 70. Most people divide 30 by 2, add 10, and get 25. But when you divide a number by a fraction, you should actually multiply it by the denominator, which is the number below the line. This way, 30 times 2 plus 10 equals 70. You find yourself in the middle of a forest with 3 paths in front of you. The first one is covered with burning hot coals. The second path is so cold that it feels like Antarctica right under your feet. And the third path is covered with sharp nails. Which path should you choose? The second path. All that ice is bound to be gone soon. It's too close to the hot coals. The police were looking for Kyle for 2 days. The guy went hiking and never came back. Finally, he was found. Someone had hit him on the head and left him lying in the bushes. Kyle only managed to say, "Friend," and lost consciousness. The police officers had 3 suspects, all of them Kyle's friends. Zachary said he'd spent these last days at work getting ready for a conference. Jeremy told the detectives he sprained his ankle and had been in bed for 4 days. And Billy explained he'd been to New York for business. He even showed the police officers his boarding pass. Who's responsible for the accident with Kyle? Billy showed the police just 1 boarding pass. Then how did he get back from New York? His story sounds fishy. Jordan was very late for a job interview, but when he drove up to the office building, he found out there were no free parking spaces. He decided to leave his car a bit further from the entrance. Oh no, even though there were several other vehicles in that area, parking was prohibited there. Luckily, Jordan came up with an idea and didn't get fined. What did he do? He took a parking ticket from another car and put it on his windshield. It looked as if he'd already been fined. Hey, I didn't say it was an honest solution. That day, famous chef Logan was going to have some very important guests in his restaurant. He was anxious because his future depended on how they would appreciate his food. Everything had to be perfect. There was only 1 hour left before the guests were supposed to arrive. And that's when Logan discovered someone had left ugly red handprints on his sparkling white jacket. He examined the stains. It was ketchup. Logan knew that some of the cooks didn't like him. Look at them and tried to help the chef figure out who's guilty. There's a pair of gloves stained with something red in the trash can. The only person who isn't wearing any gloves is the cook on the left. He was the one to spoil Logan's uniform. Linda was in a cafe with her boyfriend, and their date wasn't going very well. At one point, they both got angry and started to argue. Suddenly, their waiter came up to the table and handed something to Linda. It was a note with a strangely written word. Lowercase t, uppercase r, lowercase o, uppercase u, lowercase b, lowercase l, lowercase e. Trouble? Linda was confused. What could it mean? Can you figure it out? It's a rebus puzzle. The waiter got worried and asked Linda, "Are you in trouble?" Wendy is an art teacher. This morning, someone pranked her by putting glue on her coffee mug. She questioned 3 suspects. Blair says,
"I didn't do it. I was too busy painting these beautiful flowers."
Jason says, "I overslept and came to the studio later than you." And Zara says,
"Why would I do that? You're my favorite teacher."
"Who did it?" It was Zara. There's a glue pen in her pocket. Wendy gives her students a task and leaves the studio. After a while, she returns and sees this painting. She says, "Wow, who painted this masterpiece?" 3 students claim to be the author of the painting. Can you guess who tells the truth? To solve this mystery, we should take a look at their palettes. Only this student has all colors that match the painting. Wendy goes outdoors to buy some food for lunch. Suddenly, she sees a cyclist lying on the ground. Can you guess what happened here? In fact, the car hit the ketchup bottle. The cyclist just fell nearby and got stained. Wendy receives a delivery. 3 identical boxes with artist supplies. All boxes are labeled incorrectly. Wendy needs to label all boxes correctly by opening just one of them. Can you help her? Since all 3 boxes contain the wrong items, Wendy should open the 3rd box. If it contains watercolor, the first box will definitely have brushes, and the second box, watercolors and brushes. And if she finds brushes in the 3rd box, the first one will contain both watercolors and brushes, while the second one, watercolors only. The delivery guy walks outside and yells, "Hey, call the police! Someone stole my car!" The police begin an investigation and find these 3 suspects. One of them is a thief. Can you guess who? The first guy is just coloring his fence, and the third one is a gardener, but the second guy is hiding a lockpick in his shirt pocket, so he's the thief. Wendy comes to a party. 3 guys invite her to dance, but one of them is a werewolf. Can you guess who? The first guy is just wearing a werewolf costume. The second one has some scratches, but it proves nothing. But the third one has a real wolf tail. After the party, Wendy wakes up in a cell made of ice. She only has a pickaxe in her hand. Meanwhile, her best friend Zach is locked in a similar cell with a drill. Can you predict who will escape? Only Wendy will escape. Zach can't use a drill without electricity. The next day, Wendy arrives at the art studio. She leaves her takeaway coffee at the desk and goes to the toilet. Wendy returns and finds out that someone had drunk her beverage. She checks the cup surface for fingerprints, but she only finds her own traces. Wendy questions 3 suspects among students. Blair says, "Sorry, I've been washing my brushes in the sink. I didn't look at your desk." Jason says, "Sorry, I don't like coffee, and besides, I've been streaming stories for my followers." And Robin says, "I was changing in the dressing room to be a model for portrait class." Can you spot the thief? It was Jason. Take a look at his back pocket. He's hiding rubber gloves. That's why he didn't leave any fingerprints. Wendy receives an emergency call. Someone had stolen paintings from her art studio gallery. Wendy interrogates 3 suspects among the visitors. Sarah says, "I came here to buy some of your paintings, but when I entered the gallery, the walls were empty." Jill says, "I went blind 7 years ago, so I didn't see anything. I only visit this gallery to use your toilet." And Robert says, "Why would I rob this place? I'm the major investor." Who's lying? Jill. If she's really blind, why did she bring this photo camera with her? Wendy carries out entrance exams for art students. One of these 3 artists is left-handed. Can you guess who? It's the third guy. It's easier for lefties to hold a palette in their right hand and paint with their left. This way, his left hand works and the right one stays static. During exams, one guy named Bobby gets very sick and faints. Wendy calls the ambulance and takes him to the hospital. She's just met Bobby, so she doesn't know his relatives, but still. Wendy manages to notice his wife in the hospital right away. Can you spot her too? It's the first lady. They have identical tattoos, and the third lady has a similar mole on her cheek, so she's probably Bobby's sister. Doctors suspect poisoning, so they keep Bobby in the hospital to make tests. Meanwhile, Wendy returns to the studio and questions 3 witnesses among the applicants. Sheila says, "Bobby didn't look healthy in the first place. I don't blame him. Everyone was stressed out during exams." Sam says, "I have no idea who poisoned him, but this person is heartless." And Xavier says, "I think Bobby's just pretending to be ill to get accepted out of pity." The next day, Bobby calls Wendy with the test results. He was poisoned. Wendy calls the police right away and they arrest one of the witnesses. Can you guess who and why? Sam. He knew about the poison before the test results were ready. The next morning, Wendy enters the studio and sees that someone has left a hot mess. Canvases are torn and paints are spilled all over the floor. Can you count all the brushes in this room? "13. What about the glass jars? Can you count the exact number? There are 8 glass jars in this studio, including this broken one. Wendy asks her 3 students, "Who's responsible for this mess?" Nina replies, "I think it was David. He never washes his hands and clothes. He's such a weirdo." David says, "It was Nina. She's just jealous because her paintings weren't selected for an art exhibition." And Amber says, "I don't know who did it. Yesterday, I was feeling sick and stayed home. Who's responsible for this mess?" Take a look at the canvas frames. They're all signed. The only canvas that wasn't torn has David's name on it. Therefore, he ruined the studio and his rival's works. Wendy asked her students to the park for an en plein air class. Can you see any weird details in this area? This is an apple tree, but why are there so many oranges under it? 2 students have painted almost identical pictures. Can you help Wendy find 3 differences? Here they are. What about these portraits? Can you spot 3 differences? Over here. After the class, Wendy is trying to leave the park and gets lost. She has to walk through this confusing maze. Can you help her find the way out? Only the first path is correct. On the way home, Wendy enters a supermarket. Can you count the number of cacti? Six. Someone had broken the most expensive car in the parking lot near Wendy's apartment building. The police interrogate 3 witnesses to find out who's guilty. Carl says, "This is my car. I parked it as usual and went home. Wendy woke me up with her call." Gia says, "I was just having a yoga class in a studio nearby. This car belongs to my ex-boyfriend Carl. Too bad he loved this car more than me." And Peter says, "Carl's my neighbor, but he's not my best friend, if you know what I mean. I've been working all day and just arrived." Who broke Carl's car? It was Gia. She's hiding a baseball bat inside her yoga mat. We're gonna start out easy. You'll have 10 seconds to make number 7 even. This is not about math, actually. To make 7 even, you only have to take away the letter S at the beginning of the word. Okay, the next one is a bit trickier. 2 4s skipped dinner. How come? Because they're 8. I mean 8. Yeah, these are homophones. The last riddle to warm you up. So what numbers are always on the move? Roman numbers. Roman. Sorry, I couldn't resist the pun. On to more serious stuff. Let's test your logic, shall we? Take a look at this number sequence. 4, 6, 9, 6, 14, 6. As you see, one digit is missing. Which digit logically follows this series? 6, 17, 19, 21. If you pick the number 19, congratulations! You see, each time 5 gets added. 4 plus 5 equals 9. 9 plus 5 equals 14. And 14 plus 5 equals 19. The numbers 6 in between other digits stay the same. They do not change and act more like a frame for all the other digits. Now, take a look at this picture. How many triangles are there? Again, I'm going to help you a bit. So it is 7, 8, 12, 18. The correct answer is 18. Look, here's how you should count. You have really small triangles on top and bigger ones. Okay, this one is not a riddle, but a quick magic trick to make you the fastest in your class. If you need to multiply some numbers from 1 to 10 by 9, you don't need anything but your hands. Place both palms before you and assign each finger a number, just like you can see it on the screen. If you need to multiply 3 by 9, bend finger number 3. On the right, you still have 7 unbent fingers. That's the first part of the answer. On the left, only 2. That's the second part. Voila! 9 times 3 equals 27. Hey, are you a discount hunter? If so, you gotta be quick on counting how much money you're gonna save. To calculate the discount you're gonna get during a sale without a calculator, use this trick. For instance, to find out what 5% of 235 is, follow this method. Step 1. You get 10% of the whole. To do that, just move the decimal point over by 1 place. 235 becomes 23.5. Step 2. Keep in mind that 5% Jerry, you're pointless. Yeah, that doesn't sound quite polite, but it's just geometry. No offense. Hey, do you know what snake has the most mathematical name? It's Python. Back to more serious stuff. Let's assume you need to prove 6 plus 7 equals 1. Can you do that? Yep, it is indeed correct, but you gotta take a look at that from another perspective. Let's say these are not numbers, but hours. Do you see what I'm driving at? Right. 6 a.m. plus 7 hours equals 1 p.m. Okay, this one is tougher. What if I say 2 plus 2 equals 5? Yeah, you may want to advise me on going back to elementary school, but what if I prove it to you? Look here. Technically, it's wrong, but there are fun methods to prove it otherwise. Here's the simplest method. Let's assume 0 equals 0. Now, 0 can result from the subtraction of one number with itself. So let us think that the two figures at the left-hand side and right-hand side are 4 and 10. So, 4 minus 4 equals 10, minus 10. 4 can be written as 2 squared, and 10 can be written as 2 times 5. 2 to the power of 2 minus 2 to the power of 2 equals 2 times 5 minus 2 times 5. And when we twist it a bit, we get 2 minus 2 in brackets, 2 plus 2 in brackets equals 5 times 2 minus 2 in brackets. Canceling 2 minus 2 in brackets from both sides, we get 2 plus 2 equals 5. All proved, right? Please don't try it out during your math class. I'm sure your teacher won't be impressed. This one is just for fun. This one's not a math riddle, but yet another magic math trick that may come in handy in an exam. Here's how you can quickly square a 2-digit number that ends in 5. Let's use the number 35 as an example. Step 1. Multiply the first digit by itself plus 1. Step 2. Put a 25 at the end. 35 squared equals 3 times 3 plus 1 in brackets and 25. 3 times 3 plus 1 in brackets equals 12. 12 and 25 equals 1,225. 35 squared equals 1,225. Voila! Neat, right? Here comes another multiplication trick. To easily multiply any number by 5, simply divide the number by 2 and multiply it by 10. For example, multiply 64 by 5. Step 1. Divide 64 by 2 equals 32. Step 2. Multiply 32 by 10. All you need to do is add a 0 at the end. You got 320, and it only took you 5 seconds. A bit more magic. You already know how to multiply by 5 in no time, and you can do the same with multiplying by 6. Disclaimer, it only works for even numbers. So, let's see how it works. Let's say you need to multiply 4 by 6. First off, you need to divide 4 by 2. You got 2. Next, place 4 after 2, and you get 24. That's the final answer. Yeah, this may not work with bigger numbers. Seems like it's easier to learn the multiplication table by heart. Hey, I can read your mind. If you don't believe me, then think of a number. Keep it simple. You'll have to do a bit of math here. And you may probably need a calculator to play this guessing game with me. So, you think of a number. Now multiply it by 3. Done? Okay. Now add 6. Next step, you need to divide this number by 3. Now subtract the number you thought of from the resulting number. Let me guess. As a result, you got 2, right? No magic involved. It's just a smart math riddle. It works with any number. If you ever struggle to learn all the digits in the pi number, just give up. There are trillions of them. But there is a trick to remember at least 7. Just say, how I wish I could calculate pi. There are 3 letters in how, 1 in I, 4 in wish, 1 in I again, 5 in could, 9 in calculate, and 2 in pi. You got 3.141592. The last but not the least riddle for you. 5 people build a barn in 8 hours. How long will it take 12 people to build a barn? It won't take any time at all. Why would they build a new barn if those 5 have already done that? Give the guys a break. Plus, this one is not about math at all. We humans are pretty complicated and we don't obey math that much. What if these 12 people will split into 2 teams of 6 and start playing volleyball instead of building a barn?